Right. I have the last pattern, I think, which is the fragility of so-called newness, right? So we like when things are new. Everybody appreciates things being new. But when you take a lot of new things and you put them together, and you start making like something which is already, I mean, which was already kind of boring and old into its own fancy and shiny new version, the risk that you have is that you end up having some of these hindering factors. So you like something new, and the fact that something is new maybe it requires many dependencies, many technological bits and bobs in order to make it work, which make it nice, but also make it very fragile, because if any of the bits and bobs break, the whole system breaks. If this is only accessible through the cloud, we've talked about this so much, also a problem. If it takes something which is already happening, a protocol or like a system which is already existing, but it gives its own spin, and then maybe it locks you into a vendor, then it's also a problem. Classic example, WhatsApp, right? WhatsApp is like chat. We had standard protocols for chat even before WhatsApp, but now we have WhatsApp itself. Okay, very cool, very convenient, very new, very fancy. It has like animated stickers, and you can take like a cat and a cow, put them together, and you have a cat cow. Super cool emoji. Like nobody ever did a cat cow emoji. That's nice, but only WhatsApp does a cat cow emoji. If you need the cat cow for your education purposes and WhatsApp breaks, rather than just saying like using a standard system like of a regular chat and like typing like, oh, imagine a cat and a cow together. You have this fancy feature which puts them together automatically, but at the same time, if that system breaks, the whole thing breaks. So it's again a point of convenience. And sometimes this newness and this convenience, when together, they can make education technologies more fragile. Another big factor, big hindering factor here is specifications creep that you see at the very bottom right of the table. That is when you're keeping adding new things to your system, but this requires always more powerful computers. So for example, Zoom now has AI assistants to, I don't know, do what? Maybe take notes of the class. Maybe we can have an AI that like automatically makes like a summary of my lecture. But that thing now maybe requires extra processing power on your computer. Or the fact that I can have a recording feature, but that recording feature requires a faster computer in order to make it work. So when this newness happens, we are innovating in some sense, maybe, but we are also making the things more fragile, because this what was one single piece of technology becomes more complex, starts requiring more powerful devices to run, and it just becomes easier to break in the future. So this was my last pattern. So maybe let's stop a minute and have someone else comment and like give more thoughts about this pattern or previous ones. Maybe well, if somebody wants to start, otherwise I'll pick someone. Well, is Lamisa here? I think I saw that name earlier.
Yes, I'm here.
Yeah. Do you want to give some thoughts, even either on this newness thing? Is it clear? Is it unclear? There are some more things that you want to poke further into, even previous things. Let's just take a moment to.
No, not really. It's quite clear.
Okay, you're studying education, right? So you're studying, or are you studying computer science?
I'm studying chemical engineering.
Okay. So as a chemical engineer, how does that feel? How does this whole lecture where we're talking about servers, backends, clouds, and things feel?
Yeah, it's quite new because I haven't really studied anything computer sciencey in that way. But I understand the environmental aspect of it all, how you consume energy and all that. So yeah, it's quite
Right.
interesting.
No, sorry, go ahead.
Sorry?
No, go ahead. Sorry, I was.
Oh no, I just said that it's interesting and it's not something you really think about when you use like technology and like when you use your computer and how much energy it consumes. So yeah, it's like a new aspect for me.
Yeah, I mean, maybe we can maybe later during the program, or like when I have the chance, I will also share some materials about uh, some of these ideas. It's something which I'm actually working quite a bit in my research. Uh, but these kind of technological sustainability and this environmental sustainability tend to go very well hand in hand.
Yeah.
So very often the thing which is like the thing which is more robust is also the one that takes less energy to operate. So
Okay.
and very often things that apparently seem robust and apparently seem energy efficient, turns out that actually are not. So there was a recent research about running large language models and other like large scale inductive models on different kind of hardware. It sounds like it is a very good idea to centralize everything, put everything into a big plant, which is a so-called data center, right? Uh, it turns out that is not the most energy efficient way to do things. The most energy efficient way to do things is actually just do it on your own computer. Very
Mm.
often, that is better than centralizing things. So it's which was very surprising to me, but I saw the data and that ended up being quite convincing. So I might share this with you folks later. Uh, and the reality is that thing is not only environmentally more sustainable, it's also technologically more sustainable because you're moving the breakage point from like this big, massive infrastructure, which is like when it breaks, you need a company to fix it, to your own computer, which when it breaks, you need a technician to fix it.
Mm. Yeah, I understand. It's a bit like it's new stuff for me, so yeah, it might take some time for me to totally get it. But yeah.
Absolutely. And here's another thing. It's going to be so in all of these lectures, for different people, there are going to be new stuff because I think for Lorenzo, who has been a former student of mine, a lot of this is probably not new stuff. Like he probably knows what we're talking about. But maybe in the last week's lecture for you, it was not new stuff, but
Mm.
maybe for Lorenzo it is, right? So the program works if you use us and you use each other as sources of knowledge. So the
Mm.
program works if you kind of bother us to be more curious and to try to see how things work, and you use each other to kind of spar ideas and exchange ideas and try to go deeper into the points.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Other thoughts? Other people that want to say something?
Hello,
Yeah.
I have a question. Actually, you explained the re-implementing standard protocols, but it's still a little vague for me. The re-implementing a standard protocols, how does it work as a hindering factor?
Yeah. Let me give you yeah, I think maybe re-implementing is a bit we okay, I got I think your point. So let's say that you have something like video, okay, video streaming,
Okay.
which is like one thing that we are using right now, right? We are streaming our videos of faces and my screen and so on, right? So there are very good standards for doing this. There are like very good standards to transfer the data between our computers. There are very good standards to like compress the video so it doesn't take too much bandwidth in order to transfer data. If we are using these existing standard protocols, that is actually a supporting factor because if we are reusing standard protocols, we when things break, we know how to fix them because these are standard things. Everybody uses them in the same way, so it's of help. When we are re-implementing standard protocols, in the sense that I mean here, is that we are writing a new thing to do something for which we are kind of reinventing the wheel. Okay, we're writing a new system which does something for which a standard system already exists. So very often, what happens is that uh, there are new applications that are kind of being touted as like the thing which does X better, right? So take the chat applications are a very good example. There's always a new chat application which claims that they're doing chat better. right? In one way or another. They're adding a fancy new feature. They're adding the stickers. They're adding the stories. They're adding the real-time updates. They're adding business interactions and whatnot. They re-implement protocols that already exist. There already are standard protocols, open, accessible protocols for chat. But they do these things anew because they think they can do it better. The reality is, when that thing becomes like under locks, and it becomes the magic sauce of an education technology, when that thing breaks, we have a problem. We don't know who to ask. We have the usual old set of problems that we're talking about before. Okay, so re-implementing standard protocols in this case means like you reinvent the wheel and you do something which like already exists, but you think you can do it better because you're smarter, right? So you take the existing system, you take something which we know how to do things, you do it anew because you have maybe business reasons, or maybe you even you think you have technical reasons. But if you don't do this very well, you can actually end up making the whole system more fragile. Did I answer your question?
Yes, sure. But if I want to summarize it in one sentence, you mean if we can completely change the concept of using that thing and use it in another way, it's not included in this part anymore, no? If we change the concept, for example, you made an example about the WhatsApp or chat tools for application. If we, for example, introduce another application that the chat is just a part of it, but the concept is completely different. For example, previously we were used just SMS with our cell phones, and it was just text. But now an application like Zoom, it has also video. We can share our screens. We change the concept kind of 50%. So is it also included in this part, or no? The story is completely different.
Right. I mean, consider it. I think you gave me a good input to consider this. So we have a chat function within Zoom, right?
Yes. Okay.
So Zoom, when they use this chat function, it's very likely that they remade their own implementation of a chat, but they might have as well inserted there an existing standard chat system. The reality is nowadays, because existing standard chat systems might be things like, I mean, this is only the tech people will get it, but like things like IRC or XMPP, Jabber, like existing protocols for chat, right?
Okay.
The fact that they re-implemented their own chat system means that now that chat can break, and it is an independent part that can break, and that only they know how to fix it. While if they integrated a standard chat system, if that chat system broke, we would be able to fix it. Like other people would be able to fix it, right? So when you are re-implementing that thing and you're making it anew, maybe you're integrating it in an existing protocol. That is innovation, right? Like you change the purpose for the system, right? We didn't have this idea of like video lecture plus like chat at the same thing. That is a cool innovation. But if that component there is like rebuilding something which already exists with their own magic sauce, that is another source of fragility.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
Yes, I got it. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
I think maybe another interesting example kind of related to that is like the USB-C standard, because implementing USB-C is like, is great for long term because it really means people have less, cables, less chargers. They don't have to buy new ones. But there is like there is some issues sometimes with, because USB-C has to support so many different things. There's different protocols and things that each cable can support. So sometimes you'll get a cable that won't have a fast enough data speed or something. And because it's trying to support so many things, there's some manufacturers who, will make a USB-C cable that just won't work for you.
So yeah, this makes me think of another good example. Give me a second. I need physical support to show you something, which again might be not new for the technical people, but for the less technical people maybe it is. So this is a fancy cable where I have like a old micro USB connector, and I can adapt it to either a USB-C or a Apple so-called Lightning connector. Okay, so let's do a moment of historical revision. Let's assume that we only had USB-C came first. So USB-C is this kind of plug that you are all familiar with as being the plug which is kind of under your cell phone. Okay, so this is a USB-C plug. It has one very nice thing, which is like I can plug it in both directions. Okay, so it works in both sides, and it stops this whole old thing which happened with all the USB connectors, which they had. I mean, everybody knows this, but they had an upside and they have a downside. And even though the port looks like pretty similar, like it doesn't fit in one direction, right? So let's assume that the USB-C was the first thing that was invented. If somebody came in and they proposed something like the Lightning connector, which is this one proprietary by Apple, right? That would be a problem of what I've been calling now re-implementing standards. Okay, so because we already have something which solves the problem of like you can plug it both ways, right? Why do you need to make a new thing just because you're Apple and you think you're better, right? You already have a system which works. This problem has already been solved. You're trying to do this. You're creating bespoke hardware. You see it also here on the table. Okay, that actually means now there are two things that can break and not just one. Okay, so this is the idea. Of course, the history is different. Actually, Apple were the first ones that implemented this like double-sided connector, which I think was a very smart idea. They did it with an interesting trick, but like in order to do this, we will need to have another lecture. But like it was an interesting trick because the connector has, so the connector itself has two sides which look like the same, but the plug, so this end here, if you would have an Apple device, you would see that the connectors, so like the actual pins, are only on one side. So the reality is this fancy Apple connector fits both ways, but only because they only make contact in one direction. The other direction is just a dummy. So this thing here, this Apple system here, this very nice Apple connector, you're only ever using half of it, so to speak. While the USB-C connector is actually a smarter thing in that it's always using both sides, like both the up and the down sides in some sense. But anyway, this was a bit of trivia. The ideal, like what I'm trying to cement here is that just to say, if the problem has already been fixed, remaking your own version because of your own interest, which might be economical, they might be even technical, remaking your own version of something which already exists is likely to make things break easier in the future.